All right, so there are benefits with baby-led weaning, but there are also potential concerns. So choking is still a big concern, and baby definitely needs to sit upright in appropriate high chair, and parents should avoid the temptation to put food in baby's mouth and just allow the baby to lead, right? And also parents should try to minimize distractions and offer obviously appropriate food. But if there is gagging, which is going to happen, it's natural for babies. It's very common. Parents have to sort of let that go and do not overreact, because babies do read others' reactions and then they mimic those reactions. So mess and waste, that is a given with feeding babies in general, but this is going to be even more messy if you allow babies to, if you, this is your choice to allow babies to lead the weaning. But it's going to be, that is part of learning. That is how they explore food. This is how they learn to have a healthy relationship with food. So it's something that we have to come to terms with. But the good thing is that it only lasts for a very short time, and there are things, measures that you can take. You can put picnic clothes on the floor. There are bibs that you can use. So you can take some measures here, but also learn to enjoy this mess because it's only once in a lifetime. In terms of time, we talked about spoon feeding earlier, and how we need to pace that according to the baby's needs. This may take definitely longer. This will definitely take longer, but eating should not be rushed, and it's part of the process. It's part of how we basically train babies to be feeling comfortable and take the time when they feed themselves. So to have the time to make decisions, basically. So it is possible that more traditionally oriented individuals, like older, like grandparents, for example, or other individuals involved in baby's life, for example, doctors, maybe they will not support this. So their concerns would be whether the baby's able to eat enough and consume enough energy, or whether deficiencies of iron or zinc are avoided. So there are some concerns in terms of nutrients here, in terms of energy, but those are not very different from concerns that we would have with solid foods in general. Now, in terms of what the parent is eating, and since baby-led weaning is meant for the baby to share, to consume the foods that the rest of the family is eating. So a real concern here is, what if the foods consumed by the parents are not considered as helpful? So if choices are made for baby food, then those are fed to the baby. There are things that we take care of. So for example, we do not add sugar or salt into making special baby food. But then if the baby is fed whatever the rest of the family is eating, then one has to make sure that that is also appropriate for babies. So this is something that can create a difficulty for the family. So if instead of having to prepare food for the baby, if the whole family has to be adjusted to more healthful eating habits, this may create some difficulty, but it's probably a good thing overall if parents can do that. So there was an interesting study, and this was published some years ago, but obviously there are, I believe there are other studies that have been published since then. This study was called BLISS, an acronym for Baby-Led Introduction to Solids, and it was interestingly, it was a randomized controlled trial of this baby-led approach to complementary feeding. So this was done in New Zealand. About 200 infants were assessed, the outcomes, the various things that the researchers were interested in measuring was whether there were a difference in the incidence of choking between spoon feeding and baby-led feeding, or whether there were gagging events that were different in the two cohorts. And also, this study was undertaken so elements of like energy self-regulation would be assessed, or intake of iron and zinc, but also overall diet quality. So it's an interesting study. It includes a large number of infants. Other studies that investigate this particular approach are typically smaller than this one. So this study provides some evidence to consider. So it's one of examples of those studies to look at. And there is some more information if one wants to follow up with this method, sort of a nutshell for the main principles of this approach. The foods need to be offered in a form that is easy for the baby to hold and to also eat. So something that typically works is foods that are shaped as adult fingers. So something that the baby can hold, even smaller babies, with their whole hand in their palm, and then they can still eat it. So the food has to be cooked well enough so it's soft, and soft to the extent that you don't have to basically chew it. Another principle is to include baby at family meal time, and this is how you make this a natural process, a way for social interactions and exploring and learning. And to increase variety, needs to be a goal for solid foods. So again, one of the reasons why we introduce solids and is to meet energy needs and nutrient needs, but also is a way to, this is when you train the babies in how to transition in a more regular diet. So starting to offer variety very early on is really important. So variety should be a goal for babies and for adults alike, but it's emphasized with this method as part of that element of offering different opportunities for exploration. In terms of pacing, this is not different from the spoon feeding, but this is when this can take longer and can be messier. So whoever is attending to the baby, and they can be tired, so to speak, by this process. So we should allow baby to pace herself. Again, it's probably greater patience exercise, and we should avoid temptation to put food in the baby's mouth, because in that case it's not a baby led approach. It's we just feed the baby without the use of the spoon. Safety rules are very important. Before that, the type of the food. So number 5 refers to not offering fast foods or foods that have added salt or added sugar. It's a principle that we try to apply for the first year of baby's life. So sugar doesn't provide any benefits, and if we could all avoid it, we would be better off. But particularly for babies, we try to avoid it, especially with salt. Babies do not need any added salt. Whatever is contained in the milk or in the food that they are consuming is more than enough for them. So, and finally, safety rules are always very important. Babies should be eating in an upright position in an appropriate chair, and they should always be supervised. So yes, they are leading the way, they are the ones feeding themselves, but you should be there to offer assistance, to offer social interaction, to make sure that they are safe, they're not choking. And that has to do also with the type of the food, but you cannot predict how the feeding will go with the baby. So you should be there at all times.